Welcome to Businesso, your ultimate guide to the world of business. We are here to give you the tools and resources you need to succeed in today's fast-paced business environment. From startup to scale-up, we have you covered with expert advice, case studies, and more. From marketing strategies to financial planning, we've got you covered. Join us and be sure to subscribe. We explore the latest trends, share success stories, and provide expert insights. Workers' compensation, what it is, how it works, and who pays. What is workers' compensation? Workers' compensation is a government-mandated program that provides benefits to workers who are injured or sick on the job. It is the primary form of disability insurance for workers, providing cash benefits, healthcare benefits, or both to workers who have an injury or illness as a direct result of their work. In the United States, workers' compensation is determined by individual states. The required benefits vary from state to state. Texas is the only state that does not require employers to maintain workers' comp insurance. Understanding workers' compensation. Workers' compensation benefits may include salary adjustments for the time the employee is unable to work. Benefits may also include reimbursement for medical and occupational therapy services. Most workers' compensation programs are private insurers, paid by employers. Each state has a workers' compensation board, a state agency that administers programs and resolves disputes. There is a federal workers' compensation program that covers federal workers, stevedores and dock workers, as well as energy workers. Another federal program, the Black Lung Program, provides death and disability benefits for coal miners and their dependents. Workers' compensation benefits. Workers' compensation requirements vary from state to state, and not all workers are covered in some states. Some states, for example, exclude small businesses from insurance coverage. Others have different requirements for different companies. The National Federation of Independent Businesses, NFIB, maintains a summary of each state's employee compensation requirements. Salary replacement. The replacement salary paid to an employee under workers' compensation is usually less than the employee's full salary. The most generous program pays about 2/3 of the person's gross salary. Employers' wages are not taxed at the state or federal level, resulting in much of the lost income. The tax can be used by beneficiaries who also have income from Social Security disability or supplemental security income programs. Healthcare cost reimbursement and survivor benefits. Most workers' compensation plans provide coverage for medical expenses related only to injuries sustained as a direct result of work. For example, a construction worker may seek compensation for an injury he suffered while falling from a concrete block, but not for an injury he sustained while walking to work. In other cases, employees may receive equal amounts of sick pay while on sick leave. If an employee dies as a result of a work-related event, workers' compensation pays the employee's dependents. Receivers waive the right to sue. By agreeing to receive workers' compensation, employees give up their right to sue their employer for negligence. This compensation agreement aims to protect both employees and employers. Employees waive other remedies for guaranteed compensation, while employers agree to a certain level of liability and avoid the potentially high costs of negligence suits. Special considerations. An employer can challenge an employee's compensation. In this case, the Workers' Compensation Committee may be called to resolve the dispute. Disputes may arise as to whether the employer was actually responsible for the injury or illness. Workers' compensation claims are also susceptible to insurance fraud. An employee may misrepresent the injury at work, misstate the severity of the injury, or misrepresent it. In fact, the National Insurance Crime Board says that there is an organized crime involving powerful doctors, lawyers and patients who file false claims with health insurance companies for a fee. Work and employee injuries. Independent contractor exemption. In most states, only full-time employees are eligible for workers' compensation, not independent contractors. It's one of the main points of contention in the debate over a California ballot measure that seeks to extend benefits to drivers for ride-sharing apps like Uber and Lyft. As the so-called gig economy, the issue of workers' compensation and other benefits for contractors does not go away. In 2020, about 17 million Americans worked full-time as entrepreneurs and more than 34 million worked part-time or occasionally as entrepreneurs. Types of employee compensation. In the United States, individual states regulate workers' compensation laws. The United States Department of Labor has an Office of Workers' Compensation Program, but it is limited to coverage for federal employees, stevedores and dock workers, power workers, and coal miners. The lack of federal standards for workers' compensation has resulted in extremely varied policies for the same kinds of injuries from state to state. Identical injuries can receive radically different kinds of compensation depending on where a worker resides. A paper by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration flatly calls workers' compensation a broken system and estimates that 50% of the costs of workplace injury and illness are borne by the individuals who suffer them. Low-wage and immigrant workers often don't even apply for benefits. Workers' compensation coverage A versus coverage B. There are two types of workers' compensation coverage, called Coverage A and Coverage B. Coverage A includes all state-issued benefits that an injured or sick worker is entitled to receive from workers' compensation insurance. It covers wage replacement costs as well as medical care, rehabilitation and death benefits if required. All states except Texas offer these types of benefits, although they vary from state to state and many states exclude certain workers from eligibility. Coverage B pays the costs that exceed the minimum required by Coverage A. They are usually paid only through a successful legal action brought by the employee for negligence or other wrongdoing on the part of the employer. Employers who accept workers' compensation often waive the right to sue their employer and accept a no-fault agreement. However, state laws and court decisions in many states have restored the right of workers to sue in very specific circumstances. Therefore, an employer may choose to issue a policy that combines Coverage A with Coverage B. Who pays workers' compensation insurance? The employer pays the insurance premiums for accidents at work. There are no wage deductions, such as Social Security benefits. Employers are required by law to pay workers' compensation in accordance with each state's laws. How much does workers' compensation cost? Workers' compensation insurance rates vary by state, as do mandatory benefits. There are also different rates depending on whether covered employees are involved in low-risk or high-risk activities. The fees for the insurance are based on the company's payroll numbers. Just as examples, in California, workers' comp costs an average of 40 cents for every $100 in payroll for low-risk workers and $33.57 for high-risk jobs. In Florida, the average is 26 cents per $100 for low-risk jobs and $19.40 for high-risk jobs. In New York, the average is 7 cents per $100 for low-risk jobs and $29.93 per $100 for high-risk jobs. How do you apply for workers' compensation? The rules for applying for workers' compensation vary by state. In general, a worker with a job-related injury or illness should write down the details of the injury or illness in detail, with photos and the names of witnesses when possible. Report the injury or illness to your employer. The employer should take it from there, filing your claim with the insurer. You can follow up with your employer's insurance company to make sure a claim has been filed. If your claim is denied, you can appeal the decision to your state's Workers' Compensation Commission. Who is exempt from workers' compensation? Generally, only salaried employees are eligible for workers' compensation, not contractors or freelancers. Besides that, each state writes its own laws. For example, Arkansas excludes farmers and real estate operators from eligibility. Idaho exempts domestic workers. Louisiana, with the exception of musicians and flight attendants who report dust. The bottom line: every state, except Texas, requires employers to provide workers' compensation insurance to at least some of their employees. States write the laws, so there are many exceptions and exemptions. Contractors and freelancers are not covered, and many states exclude certain duties from the law or limit benefits. Many states have websites that can help you determine whether you are covered by workers' compensation insurance. For example, the state of Florida's Division of Workers' Compensation has information about its programs, links to relevant forms, and a database that can tell you if your employer is covered. Your support will help us continue to produce high-quality content that will benefit the business community. So, don't wait any longer, hit that subscribe button, share our videos with your friends and family, and give us a like. We'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.